Hello and welcome to the lecture on converting a Visual Studio flowchart into a Python program. At this point in time, you guys pretty much know nothing about Python. Hopefully you have it installed and running, and have tried maybe the Hello World example that I gave. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we have the solution to problem 1 of chapter 1, which I'm sure some of you guys are pretty excited about, because now you don't have to think too much about it, right? We start the program. We're going to input the square feet from the user. We're going to convert the square feet into square yards, and then we're going to output the answer. Problem is up to this point, I don't think any of you guys know how to get input into Python. So how would we find that out? The easiest way is to just simply go Google Python input, and it'll give you all kinds of information on how to make that happen. But for right now, let's go ahead and just make it happen ourselves, since I already know how to do input for Python. I'm going to come down here and launch Python. And let's talk a little bit about what you should have learned in that first section of Visual Logic, and that has to do with operators and maybe running calculations. Okay, there are two kinds of operators that I want to bring up right now. One of them is called the assignment operator, and the other ones are ones that are used for calculation. Okay, the assignment operator basically says x equals 3. So the equal sign is actually the assignment operator. And what it's going to do is if I just hit enter and then I type in x, it comes back and it gives me the number 3. Okay, and if I say y equals 2, I've assigned the number 2 to y, and now if I type in the letter y, it comes back and says 2. I can now, if I want to, I can type in x plus y, and I can type in x minus y. These are all mathematical operations, and I can go x divided by y, and of course x times y. And you can see mathematical operations plus, minus, divide, or quotient, and times. So it gives you the mathematical operators plus the assignment operator. Okay. The problem is it's asking us to be able to do input. So let's go ahead and see what we can't do about good old input. I'll say input. And the way this command works is inside the parentheses we provide a prompt within quotes. Okay, so enter, or give it to me baby, how about that? Give a little space for it, and if I type in maybe actually I'm going to assign it to square feet, right? SQFT equals this. It would just simply, if I didn't include this because I am in interactive mode, it would just simply say give it to me baby. I would type in a number and that would give me the result. Okay, but right now I'm just going to go ahead and assign it to square feet. Now you'll notice that I am using what is called camel case. This is a convention where the first letter of each variable is uppercase, and since it's a variable, I'm going to go ahead and make it the very first letter a lowercase. This is a variable naming convention. So start out with a lowercase letter, and then from that point on, come up with something that's fairly descriptive, and make sure that each new word that helps you to understand the variable has an uppercase in the beginning of it. Hopefully you understood that. All right, so give it to me, baby. So I'll just say 27. 27, like so. And there it is. Now there are 9 square yards in 27 square feet. So if I wanted to, I could just simply go square feet divided by 9, right? So hit enter, and it comes back and gives me a really nasty message. It says unsupported operand type for division, string and int. String? What do you mean string? Let's type in square feet and see what it gives us. SQFT. Sure enough, there are quotes around the number 27. So as far as Python is concerned, this is the character that represents the number 2. This is the character that represents the number 7. We've got to get this thing turned into an integer, or a float, or something along those lines. So let's go ahead and type in maybe, let's make it a floating point number. If I do that, FL float like so, you see how it turned purple? It means that this is a valid command. And now I'll type in SQFT like so. And hit enter, and it comes back and it gives me 27.0. I can also force strings to be integers. This, by the way, is called casting. And the way that I force things to be, or a string to be an integer, is I type in int, open parenthesis, SQFT, like so. And it will come back and it will tell me 27. How about those? Okay. So now we have a way in which we can get input. We know what our operators are. We know how to do a little bit of conversion. Okay. So while I'm writing the program, we're going to run into a couple of other snags, but I'm going to deal with those snags through the process of writing the program. Some of you guys are probably saying, well, Dave, I'm not sure I remember how to make a program happen with this Python, interactive shell and this Python integrated development environment. What do I do? Well, go back over here to File, and you'll say New Window. And I realize it doesn't give you much of a clue as to what that window actually does, but as luck would have it, when we do open up a new window in Python, it's thinking of it as a place where we can write our programs. Now, this place where we write our programs is called an editor. Okay? I could, if I wanted to, I could use TextEdit or any other thing that can produce the text type document, okay, to produce my programs. But since this is available in Python, I'm just going to go ahead and use it. I would also like to communicate to whoever looks at this program why I'm writing the program and what the program does. So it'd be helpful to be able to write notes to myself. These notes are called comments, and the way that we let Python know that we're dealing with a comment is we use the pound symbol. Now, some people will add a second pound symbol when they do the first line just to make it look cool, all right? And I'll do my pound, and I'll say this program calculates square yards from, FROM square feet. My typing skills are really lame. I have to confess that right up front. Okay, now I want the author, which is me. You guys will put your name, of course. And then I'll say the date, which is now, and you guys, of course, will put down the correct date. All right, well, the first thing that we want to do is we want to get input, right? So I'll write a comment, get user input, so I know why I'm writing this little line of code, and I can say square yards, feet, right? Because I'm getting square feet is equal to input. Please enter the square feet. Once I've done that, I'm pretty much good to go. I have my square feet. The next step is to convert this square feet into square yards. So I'll go square yards is equal to, remember I need to turn this into something, so I'm just going to go ahead and say, I don't know if the person is typing in a floating point number, that is a number that involves a decimal point, or an integer, which is a number that doesn't have a decimal point. So I'm just going to go ahead and go float, like so, and cast this thing, force it to be a floating point number, SQFT, like so, divided by 9. That's the formula. All right, now that I've done that, I can say print, and I'll just say SQYD, like so. I'm going to stop here and just test this thing to make sure that it runs. This is a habit that I got into, which I kind of call sneaking up on a program. Might want to put in a comment. And here we'll just say output. So basically our program has user input, it has a process of some kind, it processes the user input, and then it gives me the output. Kind of the model for most programming languages that are out there. Let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Run the module, It says it's got to be saved. Okay to save? Sure. I'm going to name this file using the naming convention that we have in our class. Okay, and that's going to be last name, first name, the chapter, and the problem number. Okay? It will automatically put a .py on the end of it. So we'll save this, and it wants to enter the square feet. I'm going to use 27 because I know what the answer is going to be. Should be 3. All right, hit enter, and it comes back, and sure enough, 3. So it works. The output isn't as graceful, though, as the flowchart shows. The flowchart says square yards, and then a quote square yards. Well, no big deal. If I want to put strings together, if I have a string frog and I have another string dog, and I want to put them together, I will use the plus operator to do that. And when I'm working with strings, using the plus operator, this is called concatenation. So let's do that. Let's concatenate these two strings, or a string together. Put in a space, SQUARE, yards. So it follows the flowchart convention. And I'm going to deliberately leave the quote off of here. Okay? And let's watch what happens. Run. Okay to save? You bet. And it comes back EOL while scanning string literal. A string literal is nothing more than something that's inside quotes. It came up with end of line. It's really, really lost. Basically what that means is you forgot to put the closing quote in there, bucko. So let's go ahead and pop it in there, and we will run it again. Okay to save, and I'll enter my square feet, and I'll hit enter, and it explodes in my face. And the reason that it did that is because I cannot, unsupported operand, I cannot take a plus and add a float to a string. Doesn't like that. So I have to convert this floating point number into a string. And we're going to use exactly the same convention that we used up here, except right here we're going to go str. And now it forces this number to be a string. You can look up, again on Google, how to cast various operators into various types if you wish. Cast various pieces of data into various pieces of types using Google. So there we are. Let's run it. Enter my square feet, 27. Hit enter, and it comes back 3.0 square yards. Now it does exactly all of the stuff that's inside this flowchart. You should have enough information now to be able to complete problem number 3.